Hello knitters, Faye Lynn from Strands Knitting Studio in San Clemente, California. I have off my needles, I have classes, and I'm going to talk about stash. Stay tuned. Okay, on my needles is Trestles Tea with the new yarn I showed you last week. I'll talk about the yarn in a minute. This is a pattern by Tiff Nealon, and there it is. It's turning out so beautiful. It is so lightweight. As you can see, I put it up on bigger needles, so the gauge is on the looser side. You could change this, but this actually got gauge for the pattern. The pattern has just a tiny bit thicker yarn. I think this you would call a sport, and it was like a DK. And then it has this lace detail up on the chest area, but it's totally plain in the back, and it's top down, so there'll be no sewing, and it'll have a split hem. So there's the front side is done, and then the back side I'll be picking up and doing the hem on that, and it's a split hem. And then I want to also show you, so after you connected these to connect this, and that's the end of your armhole, you're supposed to knit 70 rows. She didn't give you inches, which she did somewhere else, but 70 rows. So to keep track of 70 rows, you can do it by inches if you know what your, if you measure like what's an inch, how many rows, then you know if you measure inches. I go ahead and count because I don't always have a tape measure near me. So I count, but I count in tens, and then I pin. And so what I do is I know I'm gonna need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this one, yeah, 6 markers. And so I'll pin the first one, and then I had all these markers coming off of this bottom marker, or top marker. Actually, I pinned the first one because it's top down, that's there. Then I had all these markers coming off this marker. So that when I needed another one, I would just take it off there. And I knew that, how many, I didn't have to always count, but it's easy to count because it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. But this is a really good way to keep track of rows, especially if you've got 70 rows. You're not constantly counting. Oh my God, I'm at 50. Oh yeah, now I'm at 56. Oh yeah, now I'm at 62. You just keep doing it every 10 rows. So you actually go more like 12 or 13 rows, and you can eyeball it. And then you stick on your marker for 10 rows because you don't want to have to stick it on right where the needle is. It's sort of in the way, and yeah, don't do that. So anyways, this is a really, really good way to keep track of row counting on anything, and especially like if you have socks, to count rows so that you can make your second sock exactly the same. But it's just a really, really simple way to keep track of everything and not have to worry about, did I miss the count? If you're using a counter, did my counter mess up? Again, I don't like fiddly things. So I don't use counters just because I find them fiddly. And so this for me has been the perfect solution, is to use these markers and then just count them and place them in. And they can hang on there, they're not in my way, and they're always there when I need them. So anyways, so this is a great, great sweater. It's turning out really nice. So Tealy, we decided that's how you say it. So Tealy. So there's, I think it was said 13 colors. Here's a picture of all of our colors. And it is a cotton wool blend, I think. Yeah, it's 85 cotton and 15% wool. And it doesn't feel woolly at all. It feels just soft and light and fluffy. And this drapes so well. As you can see, the drape of it is really nice. This is going to be a really perfect summer top. And again, you can use anything, but this is turning out really, really nice in this yarn. Okay, so that's what was on my needles, or is on my needles. One of the things on my needles. So next is a class coming up this Sunday, the Roly Poly Pot Cover class. And it's this Sunday, the 21st, from 12 to 2. So this is a really fun, again, this is like a perfect Mother's Day gift, or a you gift, or a summer gift, or a housewarming gift, or whatever. So it's a tube, and you're doing these welts. So you, basically you knit like 6 rows, and then you're going to pick up where you started that color, and you're going to knit the things together. So it's what you would do for rolled hem, and rolled collars, which are everywhere right now. The rolled collars, folded hems. It's just a really, really clean way to do those things. And there's other things you use it for. But so this is like a master class in that technique, because you do it again and again and again. And I've got a little trick on how to do it so that you're not like guessing if you're picking up the right spot or not. It's clear where you need to pick up. So if you want the tip, you got to come to class. So anyways, and these can be done bigger. As I said, we use the bundles from, I use the bundles from Blue Sky, and this, in one bundle, I think you could almost get 3 of these, but I know for sure 2, or one bigger one, because here's a plant one that's way bigger, and you just sort of keep adding stitches as you go. But anyways, this is going to be a great class. It's a great technique to learn because you use this technique in other things. And as I said, folded collars, folded hems are huge right now. So you're going to see this a lot, where you have to fold it and you're picking up, you're picking up and knitting together the fold. So anyways, so roly-poly class this Sunday, 12 to 2. Second class coming up next Sunday, the 28th from 12 to 2. So next Sunday from 12 to 2 are these tea towels or hand towels or dish towels. They will work on any of those kind of things. This is called a bubble towel, and that's because this is sort of a bubble. I don't think I called it a bubble stitch in the blanket. I don't remember what we called it, but in our blanket class, our square month class, we have this pattern that you do a whole block out of this pattern. And it's fun. It's got one row that you're going, but other than that, it's pretty simple. And yeah, and so as you see, you need 2 colors. And I did opposite towels so that I could use up all of the yarn. I didn't have leftover yarn because, that's no good. And so this is, again, perfect for home, anybody, Mother's Day gifts, yeah, home gifts, perfect. And so this class is Sunday the 28th from 12 to 2. Okay, stash. So it's springtime. So spring cleaning is sort of in the air, and spring cleaning your stash is a good idea. So now what I'm going to say to do will depend on how big your stash is. Like mine is at the size to where I probably won't do it quite this way, but I might. It actually would work. It might. This is like Marie Kondo's organizing thing where you take everything out, like you take all the clothes that you have and you put them on your bed or the floor or whatever, and you pick up every one of them and you go through them and decide what you're keeping, what you're donating, and what you just got to get rid of because it's all worn out. So we're sort of going to do the same thing with the stash because it is a really good process to do. I'm going to tweak one little thing, but it is a really good process to go through and actually touch it all and really look at what you have instead of like I put a picture up here, part of my stash, but I have a very large armoire that I have my stash in. And I don't, I can look at it and I know what's there because I've looked at it for so long. But actually take it out and really go, okay, now really, am I ever going to knit with this? And, that's the same thing you can't go someday. Now, yes, yarn's different than like clothing where you go, someday I might wear this. Yeah, screw it. If you haven't worn it in a year, you're not going to wear it. So yarn is a little bit different because the someday actually may happen, but at the same time, the someday a lot of times doesn't happen. And so you sort of have to make an effort to actually go into your stash and say, I'm going to knit with this yarn now. What can I do with it? Where can I go? So spring cleaning your stash. So I highly suggest that you collect it from all the places it is because I know it's in more than one place, and you put it all in a pile and you literally start going through it. Now, if if you have some old yucky yarn that you will never knit with, please have that put away. So you're going to have the keep side, then you're going to have a donation box, which most of the yarn can go into a donation box. Every now and then I toss something, but most of the time it can go into a donation box. And people who do charity knitting, acrylic yarns is sort of what they go for because they're indestructible. You can wash them, you can dry them, they work. And so that's not unusual to be using those kinds of yarns. So donation will be where most of it goes. Every now and then though, something's gonna just go, like this is really bad yarn and it's just gonna go. And it's okay to go and toss it. It's okay. So now you've got it and now you're sort of going through it. So how do you separate it out? What are you separating? So like the store, we've got the storage set in colors. So, you know, if you're needing a blue yarn, you go there. And if you need a pink yarn, you would go there. So, which works here because we have a very small space. So visually, this makes this a very cohesive look compared to all of this kind of yarn is here and all the colors where the whole wall is just a bunch of colors. So for this size of a store, this makes a lot of sense. Now, if you don't have a lot of stash, this might be a perfect way to do it. If you're storing your stash in view, this would be a great way to do it because it looks aesthetically pleasing and it's not so chaos looking if it were just a bunch of, but so that's one way to do it. And that really depends. This really depends on how you personally look through things. I do it by weight, because almost always I've got a pattern and needs a worsted weight yarn, so I need to go to my worsted weight yarns, and then I can go through. Then my worsted weight yarns could be done by color. I don't know that mine are. I think mine are just worsted weights, and I know they're worsted weights, and that's it. So I prefer to go by weight, the size of the yarn. And because if I've got a pattern, that's the first thing I need to find. Okay, it's a DK weight yarn. Where are my DK weight yarns? So that is another way to do it. And those are really the two basic ways. You could also do it by fiber. And again, you could do weight by color, by fiber. You could combine these. Some people like put all their wools together, their cottons together, their alpacas together, their blends together, that kind of thing. And you could do that and still do the worsteds, the DKs, the sports. So you could have it filtered in several different kinds of ways. But simplicity is really important. So don't get too in your head about this. And that's why for me, weight is the easiest thing. I don't have to think about it. I know what it, I can tell what it is. The ball band tells me what it is, and I can just put it in the right pile. And then if I'm putting it away and I want to make it pretty, then I will. Mine's closed out, so I don't have to look at it. It's an armoire with doors closed, so I'm not looking at it. And so just by weight, and I don't worry about the colors too much. I just worry about the weight. So that's one way to get it sorted. Okay, so now what do you do with the ones that you're going to donate? So donation yarn can go to senior centers. I would call first, make sure they have a group that does charity knitting. I'm pretty sure the one here in San Clemente does. So senior centers often have a group of knitters that do charity knitting. Lots of churches, the bigger churches especially, often have a knitting group that does charity work, and they're always happy for yarn. And then if those fail, you don't have anything close to you, then all the Salvation Armies, Goodwill, all that is actually a really good place, because if you have a charity knitter and they go to one of these places and they find yarn, they're so happy to be able to get it because of the price, is way down. It's very inexpensive for them to be knitting for charity and giving it away. So it's not like it doesn't get noticed and taken if it's in a Salvation or charity place like that. So don't be afraid to take them there, because there are people who go there looking for charity yarn and are so happy to find it. So then the last thing you got to consider is actually how you're storing it and what you're storing in, and how are you keeping the moths away, especially if you've got the wools and the alpacas and stuff like that. So the more it's enclosed in things, the better chance you have of fighting all this up. So if you put them in Ziploc bags, which I do, you get the real big ones, like, I don't know if they're 2 gallons, whatever they are, the big ones. And you put them in there and you seal that, but they can get through that. And then you put it in a plastic bin and you seal that, and they can get through that. And then, but inside you put lavender, you put really like Irish Spring soap, like smelly soap. just a bar of soap just sitting in there. Peppermint gum or peppermint anything like gum seems to last, the smell seems to last a little bit longer, but peppermint essential oils on paper towels, you know, set around them. All of that is what helps. Cedar, like my armoire is lined with cedar, so I have that, and then I have peppermint, a lot of peppermint and some lavender in there all the time. And this time of year, I change it all out so it all becomes fresh again. So those are the things you can do to help keep the critters out of your yarn. If you do it visually, like you have it in cubbies where you can see it, again, just make sure it's got lavender or peppermint, you know, all over, not just one little thing for the whole cubby, but like put some in there so that you've got the smell that sort of keeps them away. None of this is 100% proof. That's just the best we can do. Now, what do you do if you do find some yarn that has been not on? You need to get it away from all of your other yarn, and what you do is you stick it in the freezer, because that kills everything. All the larvae, if there's any things that haven't hatched yet, that kills everything. So you just put it in the freezer for 24 hours, and that will kill it. And then go through it and then assess what's happening and stuff like that. So this is another way of sort of keeping an eye on it. You probably should keep an eye on it more than once a year, but at least once a year, you know, go through it and see what's happening. Make sure it's all good. Make sure you didn't get infested, because it happens. It doesn't happen tons, but it happens. It happens. You know, I've got a few things. Same with your sweaters and stuff, because I have a baby sweater that I truly love. I've made it years ago, and it has a little tiny moth hole in it. Of course, it's like right in the front, right? You know? So also all your knitted items should be in, I mean, again, as many barriers as you can put out is good, but also like if it's in a drawer or up in the closet, just get that lavender, peppermint stuff, cedar chips, all that stuff into your knitting, because it does really help repel them. Okay, so now you've got your stash all organized. How do you start using your stash? All right, so some ways to do this so that you can actually start knitting down some of your stash. Again, if you've got a person that has stash, you know, having to start knitting it down without putting too much pressure on yourself. Like, don't go, I'm not knitting with anything but stash this year. That's not going to happen. But you could do a stash project in between every 2 new projects or something, you know, and it can be just a single, it could be a hat, stash hat, you know, it doesn't have to be a sweater. You don't have to use all sweater yarns. You can use a scarf, you know, smaller projects that just start whittling down your stash. But let's say you do 2 new projects and then go in and find something and find a pattern for it. And if you need help doing that, come in and we will help you find patterns for your stash and that work for your stash, and knit something out of your stash. And if you did that, you might get, you know, 6 different yarns, 7, 8, 9, 10 different yarns taken care of for the year. And so that's one way to start whittling it down, but still not be stuck just doing stash, because it's like a diet. Having knitting only from your stash is like putting yourself on a diet, a yarn diet. And man, don't do that. It could take away a lot of the fun. You're gonna go, oh my God, this isn't it. And then if you go and buy yarn, you're like beating yourself up because I bought new yarn. I should have bought new yarn. You know, it's a hobby. If you've got hobbies, you've got other hobbies, you know you have supply, because that's what hobbies, you sort of need supply. And so don't beat yourself up about it. Just start paying attention to it a little bit more and use it every couple, 3 projects, you know, find something to knit from your stash. And you actually will find that that's actually a really fun way to do it, because you sort of invest in both worlds, taking care of the stash, but also, you know, the new bright and shiny thing like this. I sold this just yesterday because she saw it. The new bright and shiny thing, you know, don't say, no, I can't. By the way, this takes 3 skeins, so it's not even that big a deal. This is only 3 skeins worth of yarn. So yeah, that's one of the best ways to deal with stash. Also unfinished projects, like, which we didn't talk about, but if, you'll also find your unfinished projects. And so I'll talk about that another time. But there's, like, again, finishing a project and then doing some new ones, and then finishing a project and doing some new ones is also a really good way to make sure you're taking care of these things that are sort of in the back of your head going, I shouldn't do that. I need to do that. I need to do that. Just let you take care of it, but still take care of the fun, new, shiny thing that showed up that I just really need to knit this. Okay, that's it for this week. And we got more yarn coming in all the time right now. And you can start knitting your spring summer wardrobe, and which is nice and light and fun and pretty colors, lots of bright colors. So I hope to see you in the studio real soon. Bye.